Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And we are back with Coaching for Relevance, the man of
Woohoo!
the hour, our Marshall Goldsmith certified coach, and so much more. And friend, Randy Swaim joining us here at the helm today, or at the yoke. What do you say? Is a joke with pilots? How would you?
It could be almost either one, depending on what you're doing.
Great to have you
Good to
back.
be with you again.
Same here. Please
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about what you do, even though I've known him for years. I know, but
Okay.
maybe you guys don't know. We can benefit.
Well, it's most of my background has been in aviation one way or another, and been most of it's been military oriented in the Air Force, but also flying jets as a strategic air defense training contractor that worked with the military, and been doing that for so much of my career, and I'm still certifying and training jet pilots in the aviation industry, and I'm also a Marshall Goldsmith certified executive coach, as you said correctly. So my real passion is bringing potential to others and helping them see their potential and soaring past the clouds and get to their altitude and everything. And I'm also a certified neuroplastician, so I'm have a little bit of aspect of that I bring to it all as well. So it's been pretty cool, and it's all about others, making others better, and not because my name, but just as I think you've heard me say before, that 20 years after I take my last breath, doesn't bother me if they don't remember my name. But what I do hope for is that there's this whole group of people that realize that 20 years ago or whatever, there was this guy that brought out this insight, and I applied it to my life. And I'll tell you what, it's revolutionized my life. And so, yeah, that's just what I'm about. Bringing freedom to potential and all those that cross my path is my real vision.
Beautiful. Well, we love having you here. Always inspiring, always working. He will be
Thank you.
working up to his last day, right? There's no room for retirement in your world.
Well, I've had a lot of people ask me if and when I was going to, and my answer is always the same. I go when I take my last breath, because I am going to run through the tape, kind of thing. And that's just me.
I love it. All right. What did you have in mind for us today? What did you want to kind of
Well,
hone in on?
Well,
Right.
what I thought I'd do is, Jill, you remember last week we talked a little bit about the central issue of true leadership, how developing the success and the potential in your people doesn't come because you tell them what to do. It comes because of something inside of them that grows and develops and becomes and everything. And what I thought I would do is expand a little bit on that. And I'll also bring a little bit of the neuroscience aspect to it, which is key when you're talking about leading your people for success. And I will just one of the things that I'll also do on this is bring out an analogous picture, if you will, of where I'm going to go, and it's kind of from military. But I'll just start out by saying this: a colleague of mine, a friend of mine from several years ago, when we were in the same organization, reached out and we were talking. She is now working for a counseling. Or excuse me, not a counseling, a consulting organization and everything. And she asked about getting on, and we chatted, and I told her what I'm doing now with ION over in Europe, and Neuroplasticians Hub and all that over there. And she said, oh, and what she did is they have a unique assessment that they use. And as she said, they wanted to bring some of the neuro aspects to it, because that's what is so often missing in today's world. When you have people that are just trying to tell you what to do, what you should do, you just do this, you do that, and there's not this development aspect in it. And she said, with your neuroscience awareness, I'd love it if you just kind of take the assessment yourself, and then we can kind of get on and chat, and you can bring your insights to perhaps ways we might adapt it, change it, adjust it, or whatever. And I said, you bet. And so it looks like there's going to be some other conversation, help them out a little bit and come alongside as sort of a, not a partner, but a teammate kind of thing, to bring that awareness to leadership in places all over. And so it's a very key, but I'll just leave this very simply, and then I'll kind of bring out a couple of points that I think are key to understanding this aspect about it. And the analogous picture that I'll kind of use, and it's kind of wild, but it's a military picture. And it's like when you're the leader or a commander of a unit and you're having to go to war, you know, there are times when you got to get in and lead your unit. Sometimes, and I can think back on a number of times historically, where the commander of the unit had to get out in front and lead their people into the attack, you know, kind of thing. And the picture that I kind of throw out is simply this. You know, most people today know this if they're related to the military, but enemies will sit there, and if they recognize somebody with a high rank, they'll try to take them out first, because that's taking the leader out. And the point that I make to people is simply this, and then I'll kind of bring it into maybe an organizational thing. But if you're leading your team on this attack where you know you've got to win and you want to minimize the, you know, the wounded people in your group and everything, and all of a sudden bullets take you out and you're laying there and you're seeing your people run past you for those last minute, what's really on your mind? Are you pleased and you have confidence that they are such that even when you're not there, they're going to be able to get this done in a way that minimizes the risk to them and can win the battle and stuff like that. And, you know, one of the things that I've told people is, you know, when you know, a good leader develops their people in such a way that when that leader's not there, they can still perform excellently. And it's just a key aspect about this when you're talking about your business. You know, if you get sick and you have to go into the hospital right at the time when your team's supposed to be working on a key aspect that focuses on success in your company for the next couple of weeks or whatever, can they do it? Or do you have to have somebody else come in and tell them what to do because you didn't develop them? And so it really is a little bit of a picture when you're talking about leadership and leading teams. Also, guess what? Leading your youth and your family, you know, kind of thing. Are you doing it in such a way that that real potential and that ability to process the information is growing within them? And one of the things that I just sort of throw out, and it's a neuroscience aspect, is that there's two chemicals, and I think you've heard me say this on the radio show previously back in the day, over the last year sometime or whatever. But you know, the brain in neuroscience, the brain releases chemicals.
Which chemicals? I'm trying to remember what you said. No.
Yeah. The when the brain feels like it's got to fight and either fight or flight, it does norepinephrine, which makes your body want to fight or flight. If your brain wants your body to relax and just go to sleep and get some rest, it can be serotonin. If it wants to feel rewarded and it's starting to feel rewarded, it does dopamine. And the big thing is, if you're wanting to feel like a family as part of your family or your team, that connection, that oneness, it's oxytocin. And so all of those, but the thing about it is, when you're leading your team, particularly if you look at my concept of organizational maneuverability, particularly if you're leading in your team where not everything is rote academic, you know, you can't predict everything that might come on the scene for your initiative and your vision and your strategy and your objectives. The thing on it is how are you really going to develop this aspect of oxytocin in your team so that they feel oneness together. And you know what? If you do get sick, they look at each other and says, you know what? Yeah, just like he would, let's make this happen together. Boom. And they go for it and get it. But it's sort of a good picture of that. And one of the things that can happen in unfortunately in a lot of places, sometimes in today's world, is when you look at that dopamine, and I probably use this term for you. It's a term that I came up with, of the dopamine fix. You know, some people can get so arrogantly focused on themselves that they come up with what I call the dopamine fix, where they just want to focus on themselves and they just want to get the pat on the back. And if their team is applauded, who cares? And the bottom line is dopamine can be good, but on what basis would you say you got that rewarded sense? If it's because our team was rewarded, wow, together, we all have that, yeah, you know, kind of thing. And that's why, as a leader, I don't focus on myself on that. I focus on building that within the team so they feel the possibility of that success. They feel a degree of oneness, and they really work together to accomplish that. Without trying to control each other or anything like that, but they come together. And I remember seeing a movie, and it's been so long ago, I don't remember exactly the movie. I think it was a Western movie and stuff, where some people had come together to fight some bad guys and everything. And at the end, they were all getting rewarded. And the one person, you know, was sitting at the table. I guess the lawyers or whatever, the mayor or whatever, walked up and laid some money down, and he went, no, that's okay, because he believed in what they were doing. But his leader was right behind him, and he kind of lightly tapped him on the shoulder, and he said, no, you're right, but go ahead and take it, you know, kind of thing. And but it's interesting when you're talking about challenging scenarios and challenging situations where you cannot totally predict all of the factors that are going to come on scene, where the outcome is not guaranteed. You know, how are you really leading your team in such a way? Because in that little analogous picture of the battle, the fact that your team, you know, continued with the attack and we're going to make it happen, that didn't happen just because I told them that's what they're supposed to do. That happens because of their belief in what you're doing, their belief in us together, their belief in the outcome, their belief in what we're trying to accomplish. And all of that was built within them. And same thing here, when you're talking about leading your team and understanding kind of how the brain does some of those chemicals, it's a key aspect about true leadership. It's not about calling attention to yourself. It's not about you wanting to get a pat on the back, you know, when something happens well. It's not about you blaming other people if it doesn't go well. My team screwed it up. No, that's not what leadership is about. It's about really, you know, what is it going to take for your team? And I ask a few questions to the listeners. What is it going to take for your team to truly believe and be all in, you know, kind of thing, to whatever the vision and the mission and the objective is? What is it going to take for you to help create that within your team? Notice I didn't say instill it, I said create it. The other thing is, if you have somebody that is kind of expressing that sort of reward feeling, you know, that can be a good thing. That can be a good thing. There can be a balance between those two. But if you get to the point where you got somebody who's trying to play control freak games because they're all about themselves, that's where you as a leader may need to kind of put a stop to that part of it, because that could be disconnecting the team from what you're really trying to accomplish. And so when you talk about this aspect of leadership, there's some aspects that, like I said, my friend, when she asked me to provide some feedback for their thing, and what it was it was really good. It didn't bring in, you know, academic aspects of neuroscience, but it brought some really good aspects in which would raise the understanding of what those are doing. For instance, if you have somebody whose entire focus is on the strategic objective, and that's it, do they really care about their people? Are the people really feeling like they want me on the team?
Yeah.
Maybe not. But if your entire objective is talking to your people in such a way that you get them dependent on you,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
what are you missing on? And so it was just some good aspects with their assessment, and some of the aspects that I brought neuroscience to that was very aligned with, when you're debriefing those assessments, some key aspects about neuroscience and how that all plays out, because this aspect of leadership is not just a very simplistic, superficial, yeah, go just tell them to do this and do that. Okay, then let's go have coffee. Sorry, that's not leadership. And a lot of times leadership is when you get in amongst your team, when they're feeling, oh, man, and you sit down with them and you encourage them and you interact with them in such a way that they believe within themselves that they can get past this and accomplish. And so there's all sorts of aspects like that has some elements of the neuroscience aspect to it. And like I say, it was a very interesting picture with that, as I thought about it, with that military, battlefield, kind of analogous picture to it. Because you know what, in combat, when I know I'm not going to make it, and that has happened a number of times in battlefield situations in history, when I look at my unit running forward on the attack, do I think they're going to get there? And if I say, you know what, yeah, they have what it takes, that would be good. But you know what, if there's something within me that knows that, well, I'm not here to tell them what to do, I'm not here to dictate them anymore, whatever, that can be the bad side of that. And when you're talking about anything like that within an organization, when you interact with your team, are you creating that level of success that is built within them? Not because it's what I told them to do, but because they are developing that vision, that processing ability, that sense of real oneness, that sense of capability within us as a team. And you see them starting to work together in ways that you wouldn't have even pictured. And that is where real magical success can happen. And it was just sort of an interesting picture of some of the stuff just where we initiated it last week and all, but it just takes it to a kind of a deeper level of it. But when you talk about leadership and real leadership, that's why leadership is a lot deeper than most people fully understand. So it's an interesting concept. It's an interesting exploration of that aspect, that leadership is not control freak. It's not dictating. It's not just pointing fingers. It's developing within your people, taking where they are and helping it build higher, so that when you're not there, they can still perform. And that's how we make our companies better. Because if I'm not there and the team really performs, I did my job while I was there, up until I wasn't there anymore. And by the way, if I develop people in such a way that they see different ways of interacting with people and building people and developing people, guess what? When they're promoted, the company's better off going forward. And so it's just like I said, it's a little bit of a deeper insight of what leadership really is about. It's not just me coming in and dictating to people. It's not just pointing fingers or telling them what to do or anything like that. There's a lot more to it than that. So I just kind of thought I'd share that as an insight. And definitely any questions that you have, or if there's any questions that somebody send in or something, you can throw it out for what time we have.
Yeah, well, we should. I mean, I don't. some people have. We should do a show where we open up the phone lines and have people call in. That would be a good one. But I was never told that that's what we're doing. But some shows I do that for, just to let you know. So,
And you know what? The next time we're on together, maybe if it's next week, we could perhaps do that.
yeah, well, I think
And,
that's a good idea. So we can get more input and more feedback. And yes, I
Mhm.
appreciate that. I don't even control like the company email. So if they're getting questions, they're going to your producer. So I don't even get them. So I would
Oh,
love
okay,
to know too.
okay, okay,
But
okay.
let's figure that out, because it'd be great to have, some input from the outside. But you're always a great speaker, and there's a lot that you have to offer. And I hope people are reaching out. I hope you're busy as ever in your field, and I'm sure you are. But unfortunately, we're out of time. I know we had some trouble in the beginning with our the connection issue.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I do apologize. We do have to go to the next show, but let's remind everyone, Randy, how we can reach you.
Okay. And like I said, if you go to my website of coachingforrelevance.com, it's coaching FOR relevance, as in I want to bring high relevance to what we're doing. Coachingforrelevance.com. On the homepage, right at the bottom, it has my cell phone and it has my email. It also has a point where you can kind of schedule an appointment or something if you want. And as you know, I've shared this with people that I don't give you sales pitches. I just connect with people. If somebody has a need, then yeah, we'll set something up if they want. But if somebody just wants to have a conversation, we'll definitely do that.
Thank you so much, Randy. Pleasure having you here. Thank you again.
Well, I'll tell you
to
what,
all
it's
of us.
always been a
Oh,
pleasure, and we'll look
same
forward to it
here.
next time.
Sounds good, sweetheart. Have a great day. Thank you again.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.